Well, good afternoon. We are in week 5 of a series called Rescued. We've been essentially telling a story all of Lent. Week 1, we talked about how we're all made for an encounter with God. That encounter could change our life. What Benedict says, that actually that encounter could give our life a new horizon and a decisive direction. And in that part of the story that we told in the very first week, we actually said that this Lent is supposed to be an encounter. Second week, we kind of kept telling the story, which is all of our story, which is not necessarily about God's desire for the encounter, but it actually, in week 2, we told the story of how we push away from the encounter. We recoil because God sometimes wants to get close to the places in our hearts. And sometimes if there are places in our hearts that we don't want God to touch, we push God away. And that kind of brought us into the third week of the story where we talked about being thirsty, that we're all thirsty. And whether we go to the water or not, whether we are in relationship with God or not, whether we even push God away or not, we still stay thirsty. And then last week we talked about if we're thirsty long enough, we just get tired. We kind of fade in our relationship with God and we just become resigned like fish. It's amazing the simple things you need to catch a fish. They call it lures. Nothing more than just plastic. This one looks like a shrimp, except it's got a hook in it. But it looks like a shrimp and kind of wiggles like a shrimp. If you don't like brown shrimp, they got other kind of shrimp. They got pink shrimp. But it's not a shrimp. It just looks like a shrimp. Wiggles like a shrimp. You don't like that one, they make other ones. This one doesn't look like a shrimp. Doesn't look like anything that I would eat. In fact, this one's got a little spinner on it. Kind of spins through the water and kind of gives a lot of light action. And man, fish love this one because it's got something that they can eat and got something to draw them to it. If you don't like that one, well, they make other colors. This one's purple and gold for all the LSU fish that are in the water, right? Redfish like this one. Oh, I like this one. You talk about how dumb a fish is? This one don't look like nothing. Just a gold spoon. Just light. This is one I've been catching with lately. This one looks like a mullet, a little baby mullet. Kind of moves like a mullet on the end. Except this one doesn't have one hook, it's got 3 hooks in it. If you know how to play with this one and move it in clear water, it looks just like a mullet. Wave action is just like a mullet, boy, but redfish love that one. So if you don't like that, they make bigger ones, like this one. Now this one rattles a lot. It's got hooks all over the place. So we're going to have a contest. I'm going to throw this in the air. Just kidding. Something about the lure, though. You can throw it out there. It looks good. Sounds good. Crazy fish, huh? Father Bryce is not supposed to be at Mass today, but he is, so Father Bryce, why don't you come help me? Come on over here. You go stand over there on that side. Here's a crazy thing about a fish. Fish have no idea that there's a fisherman on the other side, right? Keep backing up over there. So what happens is the fish, he's just chasing his favorite sparkle beetle, right? So he's in Lake DeKalb and he's a speckled trout, and that's what we're hoping to get these days. And what happens is you just toss that thing out there to that fish, right? And shake it around a little bit. And what did that fish do? Come on, well, look at him, huh? Right? And you just snap that thing around, and he has no idea that he's coming in to my boat. All right, get back over there, Father Bryce. Why on earth would a fish eat this? It's not supposed to eat this. But if you throw this, you present this, you know how to handle this in the right way, under the right circumstances, and if a fish is hungry enough, he will chomp down on his death. He knows it's going to hurt. He knows he's not supposed to eat it. But if he's hungry enough, and if it is presented by an angler in the right way, he will chomp down on his death. In the spiritual life, this story that we've been telling for Lent, there is an enemy that is real. And we don't like to talk about him in church because it makes the little ones uncomfortable and it makes the older ones uncomfortable. And we certainly don't want to talk about sin because that makes us all uncomfortable. But if you were in the water and there were an enemy luring you to your death, would you not want someone to tell you? Because what happens is the enemy throws bait out there all the time. And when you and I are hungry enough, we will bite down and he will slowly lure us to him. Father Bryce is you. This is what we do. Stop right there for a second because the enemy doesn't want you to think where you're going. He'll pause, sprinkle a little consolation in your life, and just keep luring you over and over and over to him. Have a seat. Why would you bite down on the lure? Because that's the story that we've been telling this Lent. The story that we've been telling this Lent is this. You were made for encounter. We push God away. We're still thirsty. And if you and I stay there long enough, last week's message, we get resigned. And then all of a sudden what happens is we forget why we were made and who we were made for. And we buy in to just resignation. Open up your bulletin with me for a second. I want to read a quote with you. Page 4 in the bulletin, left side the page. Page 4 in the bulletin, left side the page. Christopher West, I'm going to pick up this quote, I'm going to read it, just follow along in silence. Christopher says, without reference to God's original plan and its hope of restoration in Christ, People tend to accept discord as just the way it is. Stop right there. When you're resigned, when you're tired of pushing God away, you're over here, this is what resigned sounds like. I just want to be a good person. Look, I don't want to be a saint. I just want to be a Catholic. I go to Mass. I treat my neighbor the way I'm supposed to be treated. I'm a good person. When we've resigned, if that's the best that life or the spiritual life can offer you, then this is what it sounds like. It sounds like we accept life as just the way it is. Keep reading. When we normalize our fallen state, when we normalize living resigned, it is akin to thinking it normal to driving with flat tires. We intuit that something is amiss, but when everyone drives around in the same state, we lack a point of reference for anything different. So what happens is, you'll tell the story in great detail next week, but we're all kind of there. Resignation is easy to get to, and you just forget you're supposed to have air in your tires. You forget you're supposed to be going somewhere. So life becomes this pursuit of the radio in the car, or what color the car is, or how flashy we make it look. We forgot we're supposed to go somewhere in the car, so we just think that, well, life is about flat tires. And when life is about flat tires, we get seduced by the big one. What's the big lure? The big lure is that the enemy isn't real, that sin isn't real. Come on, Father Mark, what's the big deal? Everybody goes to heaven. It's been rattling. It's been rattling in the Catholic Church for about 50 years now. Certainly been rattling in the Catholic Church ever since I was alive. Shh. There's no fisherman. There's no enemy. It's okay. Nothing will happen. Now here's a question. Who's going to unhook you? When you get hooked with this thing, you're going to a boat. When you get in the boat, you're going into an ice chest. When you get in the ice chest, they're going to lock the ice chest. When you get in the ice chest, you're going to die. You're stuck. You're hooked. Who's going to unhook you? But it's out there. It's tempting. Look at the next page with me. Look at that image. I don't know what your lure is, but I know what mine is. And I know what that guy's name is on top of the water. Let me tell you what this is. I'm going to read it. And at some point, you're going to get mad that I'm reading it. It's okay. And at some point, you're going to get irritated that I keep reading it, and that's okay too. In fact, I'm going to ask you to participate with me because I love you, and it's my responsibility to let you know you can't bite this. It has consequences. So when it says, I'm bound, that's your part. I'm going to read the first part. We're all going to say the end together. You ready? Here we go. I drink too much, and I can't stop. I'm bound. I spend what I don't have. I'm in deep debt. I work too much. I have to pay for all this. I look at pornography. I can't stop. I had plastic surgery because I have to look younger. I blame others a lot. I'm always right all the time. I have to be right. all the time. I refuse to forgive. I won't let them win. I will never tell anyone I can't. I contracept. I am now, and I have a right to. I'm irritated that Father Mark put contraception on this list. And now I'm mad that you just named my irritation. I'm having an affair because I'm unhappy. I get physically abusive. It's their fault. I neglect my children because I need my time. I have to have more, at least more than them. I will never let fill in the blank with someone in your life into my heart again. I gamble and I can't stop. I eat to excess. I can't stop the gluttony. My phone, I itch to check it. I cannot not look. I neglect my aging parents. It's my life. If people only knew what I've done. I'm angry at fill in the blank, and I have a right to be. I'm mad that you imply that I have to forgive. Father Mark, I'm mad that you're implying that I have to grow up. I'm irritated that you're reading this list in church. I wish we didn't have to hear this thing again. I wish this Lent and this preaching series were over. I don't like it when someone calls me a sinner. Being Christian is being a nice person. I hate that I have to admit that something on this Lent is true about me. I hate that part of my life. I can't make it go away. I'm bound, and I hate that That's right, they're right. The best this life can offer is a relentless pursuit of another house, another camp, another car, and another toy. I know that it's a lure. I know there's a hook in it, but I can't help it. I know it's going to hurt. I know I'm going to get hooked. But that lure is alluring, and I can't stop chasing the lure. I can't stop getting hooked. If I only had more money, if I only were younger, if only I were thinner, if only I looked like I used to, if only I were married to someone else, if only I lived somewhere else, if only I were smarter, if only I had different parents, if only I had a different childhood, if only I were like someone else. If only the enemy stopped tempting me. If only life were easier. I liked it better when I didn't know I was bound. I liked it better when it seemed okay to be like everyone else. I liked it better when I could rationalize that sin isn't real. Welcome to the story. Because that's what it sounds like. And that's what's on the other end. And he's tossing it out there. And you get hooked. Now, you know what the biggest temptation is? Here's the big one. Christmas. Because we all presume that Jesus is coming to get you out the ice chest. So we make friends with the lure, presuming that Jesus is going to come. Satan lived on the earth 2,000 years before Jesus. What if he doesn't come? What if Jesus didn't come? Lazarus is in a tomb, dead, decomposing. Who came to get him? But what if Jesus doesn't come? What happens to Lazarus? This right here. The consequences of biting in to the lure. Lazarus is in the ice chest. Lazarus in today's gospel is in the tomb. And the temptation that is seducing every one of us every Lent is we're reading today's gospel through the lens not of Easter but of Christmas, because we just presume that God said, I'm coming down there to rescue you. But what if he doesn't? Just for a moment, in fact, just for a week, I want us to presume that we've made too many presumptions. Lazarus, stuck. Imagine what it's like to listen to the story from the inside of the tomb. He's all bound up. What's he bound with? He's bound with every one of those sins that you and I can't stop biting on. I refuse to forgive. I got that favorite sin that I go to confession with all the time. I have a right to some sins. I mean, nobody's perfect. Everybody goes to heaven. What if he doesn't come? What if Jesus never comes? Then all you have in life is all of your toys and all the distractions and the relentless pursuit of one more hook. Without Jesus, this is life. Different things to help me forget about the fact that I'm thirsty, I was made for something more than whatever they're telling you. Unless we spend some time in the next 7 days admitting that we need Jesus, we will be seduced the rest of your spiritual life talking about what you want from Jesus. Next week's Palm Sunday. Next week we're going to read the Passion of Jesus Christ. If you stay with the image with some maturity, where God not only got in the ice chest for you, but said, I'll take your spot so you can go back out. He chose to rescue us. Palm Sunday's not about kind of thank you, I get to go to heaven. Palm Sunday is there is no heaven without Palm Sunday. And for 7 days, knowing that there's good news coming next week, so stay with me here in the process. For 7 days, let's consider what it would be like if he never came. If we didn't have anything to uncover. If there's nothing. And imagine if you were about to take your last breath in the ice chest and somebody opened it and took you out. Would you be willing to come to Mass next Sunday and hear the story of how he rescued you? We have 7 days to Palm Sunday. 7 days before we hear the greatest story of your life. Let's take the next 7 days to consider the gift that is being given to us as we prepare to be rescued. Amen.